what are the main benefits and the challenges in working in this GIS industry? We would like to hear from you from your perspective that what are the possible rewards and also the challenges you are working in this GIS field right now.
So I think for main benefits, I would say for the kind of work that I'm specifically working on, the main benefit I see is keeping a project moving and making a client happy that they've got a map that helps them understand what we're talking about in our report, or providing them a web asset that helps them look at their data, visualize their data, understand, and maybe even manipulate their data to, get the information they need out of it. And also helping your coworkers do a better job is really nice too. I really like, my main favorite thing to do is help other people, get what they need and what they want. And so I think GIS is a great way to do that. Because for example, with like archaeologists, they know where they dug when they're at their site, but they don't remember where they dug when they're looking at it from a bird's eye view or an aerial. So helping them understand where their data is, why it's important, and then the themes and everything going on with their data so that they can then provide a better report and a better understanding for, preserving history. I think that's great. Challenges, I think you have to be a really creative problem solver because you're going to get sometimes crazy data that doesn't seem to make sense, or you're going to have clients with really high expectations and maybe little explanation for what they want. So being a creative problem solver is definitely going to be important and can be a challenge for some working in the field. Even sometimes for something you've done 100 times, you're going to get data that's going to just, throw you a curveball and you got to be ready to deal with it, even though it's routine. So yeah, I would say biggest challenge, creative problem solving, and greatest benefit is helping others and moving projects forward.
One of the biggest benefits I think I keep hearing about GIS, and I've worked in planning and architecture, urban design slash, I think biggest benefits is definitely for communication. It's a very effective communicating tool, bring everyone on the table and everybody visualize their assets or concerns. And that's quickly can bring people with different traits of life or background or interests into the same table and facilitating a discussion. And visualization is also, I think it's one of the things that like human instinct, what's this say, a picture worth 1,000 words, right? So putting it onto a map, into a graphic representation really boils down the concept and lowers barriers for understanding. And I think another benefits of GIS is the data-driven architecture behind it. It's really give you a system. It's not only a single image that just output once and you lost it. It's something that's live there. And for those of you use our GIS system or other WebGIS asset, it lives there and you can always go in there. There's something traceable, and hence the version control you can set up, then become something you can leverage for whoever you are stakeholder in the development process. The challenges are interesting. So recently, I think I've been thinking a lot about how the concept of a top-down version view. Thinking of GIS, you bring all the different layers, soil constraints, your environmental layer, your biohabitat or cultural things into, and do constraint mapping, your planning analysis. That is actually very top-down driven, right? And I know a lot of what's emerging, I think there's Internet of Things. Say if you have auto driving car system, right? How do you approach this system differently? I don't see a lot of application of actually GIS, the mindset in those kind of system. So how do we tackle the need of Internet of Things with GIS? It might require a little bit shift in your thinking from a top down to what's more. One of the favorite phrase I learned from my professor, Dana Tomlin, who's the map algebra inventor. He said, is the worm's eye view. Is you think about yourself as a worm and you live in the geographic raster space and think about, do a scanning around your face. And that's more like that, I think, like self-driving car. kind of thinking. I don't know if that I'm just rambling a lot, but I think that's an interesting perspective shift, and we want to think about. Another challenge I think I'll talk about is quality of data. That's as Nissa mentioned, right? We have so many data that's in PDFs and Word document. We spend 60, 70, 80% of time just digitizing those data. How do we leverage maybe some more AI tools to do that so we can liberate ourselves to do the creative part?
Both Rose and Wenhao summarized perfectly exactly the same challenges and benefits I get. I think for me, and I'm going to struggle to find something aside from what you said, but what I think one of the best things about GIS and where we've got to so far is we can now look at data or problems at different scales. So you can actually go down right to the micro scale and then further up at a much bigger scale, and the availability of being able to visualize that has made things, I wouldn't say it's made it easier, but it's definitely opened up a whole new world, especially for planners, especially if we're so used to just seeing what's in front of you and what's around you. And I think that also then brings into what I would feel is what I think is one of the biggest challenges, which is data bias. So yes, there's inconsistent data. There is sometimes a lack of data. But one of the biggest switches I've seen in the past 10 years has gone from, we completely don't trust this tool, this information, through to, oh, we trust it completely and it can't be wrong. Whereas that's not the case, because any tool is only as powerful as the data you put through it. And a lot of the data that we've collected in the past has massive gaps in, because you only collected things that you thought was good data or useful data. So you have a lot of we have loads and loads of useless data that we've collected. And there's also a lot of useful data that we haven't taken into account or segmented properly. And as a result, they can sometimes be like, oh, you create a fantastic map that demonstrates the difference between different locations, and you've put some metrics in it that show you some analysis that have opened up your eyes, but you haven't thought of the bigger picture behind it around the whys and the hows and what to do next. So actually this goes back to Rose's point about the creative problem solving. And I'd say there's also an element of actual critical thinking. GIS hasn't made it, or the advance of digital tools hasn't made it so that you don't need different people at the table. In fact, if anything, it's made it more vital that you have different views on the table, different professionals at the table, and it works as fantastic as a communication tool so that you can open up those conversations. So it has massive benefits to it, but then it's also created other issues that we need to now solve those.
So a lot of what I was going to say is already covered. I'll still go. I think there are a lot of benefits of using GIS when you work in this industry. First of all, there are so many real-world problems to be solved, and if you like problem solving, then that's a feast. You can use GIS to solve like problems for transportation, public health, economics, and so on. And also then there are a lot of resources available, be it online communities or people that if you're a student, you probably know someone who knows GIS. You surely know that if you go to him or her, and then they know how to solve it. And if you are working on an industry, you have a colleague who is very nimble with the software like ArcGIS. That's one of the benefits. And also I think automation is a big benefit of doing anything. I particularly, while I was working on different resilience improvement plans for different states, be it Florida, New Hampshire, Tennessee, we were doing the same thing again and again. So what we ended up doing is we ended up automated the whole process, so that when we work for the next client, we don't have to like process the same thing again. GIS gives you that capability. Challenges, maintaining data accuracy and reliability is a challenge. Everybody mentioned that. And I also think there is no one-stop solution. Something that you can do well on ArcGIS cannot be done well on QGIS and vice versa. And I'm not sure if that's a bad thing or a good thing. you need competitions, you need different ways of doing things. So that could be a good thing as well. Another big challenge is the GIS industry is evolving so fast. Even Esri pushes their updates, online updates, so often that in a month you no longer know the platform anymore. That happened to me. It's very fast paced. So in order to keep pace, you have to be like engaged and keep doing what you do.